Namaskar, Bharat. So happy to be in this great city and addressing a lot of students, but also a number of dignitaries. Look, back in 2009, we had a horror show of climate talks. The temperature in Copenhagen was freezing. The sandwiches tasted horribly. There was no nice Indian food. And we had enormous expectations. They were there, and the deliveries were there. They all came. Manmohan Singh came from India, Premier Wen came from China, the new Jesus Christ of global politics, Barack Obama, came from the United States, and we expected the climate issues to be resolved once and for all. Nothing happened. People went home crying, really literally. Many people were crying, they were desperate, and we believe the climate issue was not to be resolved because of no impact from these talks. But what not one person mentioned in Copenhagen was the fact that the price of solar energy will fall by 90% in the next decade. And that's what's driving the world now. If you switch from coal to solar or wind, it's not a cost, it's a cost saving. For the first time in human history, a new development path is possible. There is no choice between economy and ecology. We can do both. Look, our grandparents and parents were not stupid when they decided to go for oil and gas and coal. It was because it was the one and only way to prosperity at the time. That's why they did it in Europe, in America, in Japan, in Korea, in China, in India, everywhere. Because if you didn't base your economy on coal and fossil fuels, well, there was no way to getting everyone out of poverty. But now we can go prosperous and we can go green by exactly the same policy, and that is the message whenever I listen to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And this new development had many very significant consequences. Last year was the first year in the history of India, but it was also the first year in the history of China when coal emissions went down. Yes, it happened during COVID for very different reasons, but except for that, they have been increasing and increasing and increasing. Now they start going down. China last year added 315 gigawatt of solar energy to the grid. That's more than any nation has made in the history of that nation. India last year became the third largest producer of renewable. I'm pretty sure India soon will be the second largest producer of renewables, next to China, but above the United States of America. This is world-changing events because a new development path, a next future is taking shape. And it means the old days when Europe dominated climate talks is over. It's now China and India and Indonesia and Vietnam. It's the developing world which is setting the direction. Brazil. And it's not climate talks by diplomats, but action by business which is driving the change. And ladies and gentlemen, on all you here, you see the changes all over Bharat. And let me give you a few examples because I've had the privilege to travel this wonderful land. In Pinnapuram, in Andhra Pradesh, Greenco has established something absolutely remarkable. It doesn't exist in the United States of America. It doesn't exist in Europe. It's a 7 gigawatt combined solar, wind, and hydropower facility. In daytime, when there's plenty of sun in Andhra Pradesh, you pump up the water to the upper reservoir, you release the water at night, and you have 24 hours of renewable energy in Andhra Pradesh. This one facility in Andhra Pradesh is as big as the entire grid in Sri Lanka, just to show the size. Move to Gujarat, in the Kutch Desert, the salty desert in Kutch, in Gujarat, Adani Group is now establishing the largest solar and wind facility in the world, even larger than those in China. It will be 30 gigawatt by 2030. How big is that? Well, that's much larger than the entire grid in Bangladesh, which is a nation of close to 200 million people. So what we see in Penapuram and what we see in Kutch are really large, world-changing developments. Move on to Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, they just finalized an eco-circuit from Chennai to Rameshwaram. Rameshwaram, as you will know, that's the place where Ram and Hanuman launched the attack on Sri Lanka to take out the horrible king of Sri Lanka. But from Chennai to Rameshwaram, there is now a new eco-circuit. It's a dugong protection area, a bird center, a mangrove center, a wetland center, a huge number of protected areas. And again, Tamil Nadu and Chief Minister Stalin does this because, yes, they believe in the environment, but they also do it because they believe in the economy and creating jobs and tourism. So this is good for the economy and good for the ecology. Yesterday I was in the state of Bihar. In Bihar they told me they will now make a scheme where every low-income family in Bihar will get the offer of solar panels on their roof free of charge. The middle class, the rest will pay, even if it's heavily subsidized, but for the very poor it will be free of charge to power their facilities by solar. So we see the changes all over Bharat. And what's then the next? The next is a combination of this renewable revolution, which is already well on the way, but an integration of the renewable green revolution with artificial intelligence revolution. You can never run major data centers without renewable energies. That's why India is very well placed to run such centers. But intelligence from the centers can also make the green revolutions much smarter and much more efficient. And we will also see the transport green revolution. 25 cities in India are now developing metros. Many of these metros are elevated, not in tunnels, but still they are metros. We see two-wheelers and three-wheelers going electric by the day. We will very soon see cars normally becoming electric in Bharat. And Delhi, I believe, has now the highest number of electric buses in any city in the world outside China. So be rest assured, Bharat is developing very fast in a green direction. Finally, what are the challenges for this green development? First is to get the message across to everyone. In my view, no one is doing that better than Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I visit a number of conferences where he is the main speaker, and I'm one of the other speakers. Modi hardly ever speaks about emissions. He never speaks about global climate talks. He constantly speaks about how India, by going green, will also go prosperous, how India can bring everyone out of poverty, but doing it by solar and wind and hydropower. And that is an appealing message, and European and other leaders should take a look at that message, and maybe they could also be focusing a little more on the opportunities rather than on the problems. We need finances for the green revolution to happen, so banks and the financial institutions must make it possible. Sometimes it's completely commercial, but there is an upfront cost which needs to be covered. And the geopolitics of this is important. The rapidly improving relationship between India and China is core, because China is now the indispensable global nation for the green transition. Everyone who wants to go green needs to work with China, because that's where you have the cheapest and most efficient technology. But of course, India wants to make it in India, so partnering with India, but learning from the technology and then developing it here, that's the right way forward.